Minister Hajdu, thanks for taking some time for us. These agreements in principle are non-binding and still need to be ratified. So what could go wrong here?
Well, I'd rather talk about what's gone right, actually. And what's gone right is, for the first time in a very long time, all of the parties have sat down together, worked out, I would say, extremely difficult details to arrive at a fairly comprehensive agreement in principle. All have signed the agreement in principle and now are committed to the next work ahead, which is to flesh that agreement in principle out, get those details in place, and have a final agreement that that is to the satisfaction of all parties, but also is approved by the federal court and the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal.
Well, you know, a lot of people do believe this could be a historic moment here. It's a big deal, but Cindy Blackstock, who helped file this original complaint in 2007, said that, quote, "Nothing changes in the lives of children today. These are simply words on paper." So what would you say to Ms. Blackstock and others who could be concerned that this is another broken Liberal promise?
Well, I wouldn't call $40 billion a broken Liberal promise, Dennis. In fact, I want to thank Dr. Blackstock for being a signatory on the agreement in principle. Her signature is on it, as well as you know, AFN and the Chiefs of Ontario and the Anishinaabe Nation folks and Mushume and Trout class litigators. You know, this is the result of conversations over the last 6 weeks that were, I would say, ongoing and persistent. I think Regional Chief Woodhouse said it best. There were difficult moments where people didn't agree on a path forward, but everyone committed to coming back to the table. And I will note that Honourable Murray Sinclair was a key ingredient in facilitating that conversation and keeping us all focused on what mattered, which was the future for Indigenous children, but certainly also a fair compensation regime for people that have been so harmed by discrimination and racist funding practices in the past.
You seem confident this will move ahead. So tens of thousands of First Nations families and children are affected by this agreement in principle. Should it all move ahead smoothly, I should say, how quickly could they see compensation?
Well, certainly I think everybody's focused now on the compensation and making sure that it's done in a fair, in an appropriate, and in a safe way, culturally safe way that doesn't re-traumatize individuals that have been traumatized, sometimes by a life of inequity. Many of us who have worked in community before politics will remember, you know, the common experience payment and the independent experience payments that in some cases were very difficult for people to access, and some processes were very re-traumatizing. And that's why we've committed to First Nations partners that they'll lead the design of the compensation package. They'll put into place the appropriate approach that will ensure that compensation unfolds quickly, but also carefully in a way that meets the needs of Indigenous First Nations people that have been so harmed.
That said, though, Minister, are we talking weeks, months?
Well, it's hard to say. We need to get to a final agreement first, and of course, we're hoping to do that as quickly as possible. I will say that parties are hard at work already in what that final agreement will look like, and you know, we'll be there. We'll be there for the First Nations leadership and organizations that will design this program. Our contribution, as you know, is a commitment to the adequate funding so that that compensation can unfold in a way that obviously will never restore people, but will certainly acknowledge the harms and help give people, you know, some comfort that their harms are recognized.
Minister Hajdu, we'll have to leave it there, but I appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thank you very much, Janice. Take care.